So for today's video, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'd like to have a little story time with you guys explaining how I got into bikini competitions and how I got to where I am today.
Just wanna see the light.
Let's start from the beginning. As a child, I was always super athletic. My family had enrolled me into gymnastics, and my favorite subject in school was always gym class. Like, I would go above and beyond in gym class. They would tell us to run 4 laps and I would do 8. I would make every single thing a competition, especially with the boys. I always wanted to beat the boys in chin-ups, in jump rope, in push-ups, in races, because we would have those little tests as, middle schoolers or whatever. So that was always like my thing, is gym class. And I'm not gonna lie, I always rocked out at all those things that they test us on. So as I was a child, I was always athletic and very competitive. My athleticism, I would have to definitely thank gymnastics for, that got me started with everything. Throughout middle school, I began to develop a new love, and that was track. So I realized I was a lot faster than everyone else. So I kind of honed in on running and sprinting, and I would practice in gym class, and I would have my dad take me to the hill and do sprints up the hill. Yes, as a child, I volunteered to do extra work. It's crazy. In middle school, we had a track team, and I joined it, of course, and I just really loved it, to be honest. It was so fun for me to run against everyone else, to see how fast I was compared to everyone else. So in middle school, I was kind of doing gymnastics and track. As we got into high school, I focused mostly on track only. I kind of gave up gymnastics, but kind of still kept my skills along the way. Even till this day, I can still do a lot of things that I used to be able to do in gymnastics. But track was my main thing. And in high school, I wasn't even like a cool kid. I was pretty much a loner, to be honest with you, because all I cared about was track. And running a track meet was like the highlight. And I would love in the morning when they would make announcements and they would give the results of the track meet. And I was very successful in high school. I ran the 300-meter hurdles, the long jump, and the 100-meter hurdles, but my main event was the 300-meter hurdles. And I was so good at track as a high schooler that I earned a scholarship to a Division I college where I ran the 400-meter hurdles because they no longer had 300-meter. It was the 400-meter hurdles, and I ran on scholarship. And at this time, honestly, track wasn't as fun as it used to be. I think it was probably because it was more like forced rather than a voluntary thing. So I began to lose my love for track and fields, and eventually, after my college career was over, unless you make it to the Olympics or are super, super, super good at track, you're pretty much at a dead end. There's not much more you can do after that. You can join a track club, but it's not quite the same. And around this time, I was feeling so lost because I'm done with college, I'm done with running, but what am I training for? It was so different for me to not be focused on a specific goal or train for something or to put my all into everything. And I just felt so like I was just existing, and I don't know. I was missing a part of me. And around this time, I kind of discovered or stumbled upon the sport of NPC bikini. And actually, one of my former high school track coaches, who I kept in touch with, I noticed that she did figure competitions. So I kind of learned things from her about the sport. So I noticed that they also had the bikini division, and I thought bikini was well suited for me and for my body type. Now keep in mind, I've only been out of track shape for about a few months, so I already had a pretty good base to start off with as far as bikini was concerned. So I entered in my first show. It was the Arnold Classic in Ohio. It's a huge show, and as they say, go big or go home. So I just went big on my first show. I competed and I was just so clueless. At the time, I guess I didn't research enough about how bikini competitions went And I remember I wore like a white suit. My hair was bleach blonde. I didn't even have the right tan. I got my tan done at a salon instead of like a show tan. Yeah, everything was a mess. My posing was a mess. My body was pretty good. I had a pretty good physique. Maybe a little bit too lean, too small. But more so, the problem was my everything else, just the things that I mentioned to you. So it took me about a year to get it together as far as posing, the right suit, the right hair color. It took me about a year. And funny enough, the first show I competed in, like I mentioned, the Arnold Classic, that year I got 14th place. So the first Arnold Classic that I ever competed in as an amateur, I got 14th place. And the following year, 2012, when I finally got it together, because I researched and I improved, I took first overall out of everyone. So as an amateur, I won first overall. And that was a pretty big deal because this was the biggest show for an amateur at the time. And there were girls traveling from all over the world just to compete there. And I drove 2 hours from Akron to Columbus, Ohio, and I ended up beating everyone. So that was my first big moment, and that was my first moment that it was like, wow, maybe this was like my thing, my new thing. Maybe I'm like meant to do this. So at the time, I wasn't able to get my pro card from the Arnold Classic Amateur. I believe the rules have changed since then, but at the time it wasn't allowed. So I ended up getting my pro card about 5 months later at the NPC Team Universe. Won my pro card, and that was another super exciting event for me because I remember that was just like my goal was to win my pro card. And I just felt like Cinderella. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I won pro card. That whole night I couldn't even sleep. I literally couldn't. And the photo shoot the next day for all the winners of the Team Universe, I remember I was like so tired for it, but I was just so excited. So it was such a happy moment for me. As a pro, I competed a few times. I won a few shows, but my next big break was winning the Olympia in 2013. And that, till this day, is the most exciting, the happiest, most shocking moment of my entire life. In fact, on stage, I actually cried. And the reason why is, going into the Olympia, I was not exactly predicting to win. I was not expecting to win. No one was expecting to win. In fact, I was just a rookie amongst all these seasoned pros that I've looked up to for years, that I saw in magazines, that I saw like on advertisements for supplement companies. And I followed these women like for years, and it was cool just to be on the same stage as them, but to beat them was incredible. And I remember competing at the 2013 Olympia and just thinking like, you know, when they gave the first call outs, I was in the first call out, and I was like, is there a mistake? Was I supposed to be in the first call out? How am I in the first call out? Like, you don't understand. I was just happy to be at the Olympia, but I said, you know what? I'm happy to be at the Olympia. If I get top 10 at the 2013 Olympia, I will be the happiest girl ever. I will be so ecstatic. And what's cool is not only did I meet my goal, but I exceeded it. So I always say I like to keep my goals realistic and maintainable and work towards the bigger ones, but I just feel like I made the biggest jump. I made the biggest jump from just happy to be there, to qualify, to winning the whole thing, which meant I was #1 in the entire world. That was the coolest feeling ever. And it was like so unexpected. I was such an underdog. And to this day, the most exciting moment of my entire life. Fast forward a little bit, I won some more pro shows, and I won 2 more Olympias, and I was then a 3-time Bikini Olympia champion, so I was like on top of the world. I was the girl to beat. And eventually, the following year, I kind of slacked with the training, kind of started to get a little overwhelmed with that. It was like a lot of pressure for me, and I just kind of crumbled a little bit under the pressure. I moved to LA, things were changing, and I was just kind of not focused and just not my usual self. I ended up taking 4th that year at the Olympia. And then after that, I said, you know what, I think I need to break. I need to break to get my minds right, to get focused again, to make me realize why I love the sport so much. So I ended up taking the year of 2017 off and came back in 2018 and had a little trouble along the way, and I've had videos documenting basically my whole 2018 season. So if you want to check that out, just check into my video archives. I basically videoed every show that I did so you can see the whole process. But 2018 was such a tough year to come back. I was dealing with some health issues, but when I did come back, I came back leaner and meaner than ever. And in my opinion, my best physique to date, 2018 Olympia. So here I am, 2019, talking to you guys, doing some shows again. I have some shows planned for this year. I'm not gonna announce which ones yet, but just through this entire experience, I'm just so grateful because I never expected all this to happen. Growing up in Ohio, I was kind of assuming I would never leave Ohio. I was assuming that I would never really be anything special. And not that I was not confident, I was just kind of in a rut and just my environment, and I just never really had high expectations for myself. But all I knew was, even from when I was a kid, I was always willing to work super hard, and I was always super competitive, and that's all I knew. And it's kind of crazy, the opportunities and great things that came from competing. I basically made this my career, not necessarily competing, but the things that go along with it, the endorsements, sponsorships, seminars. I get to travel the world and compete, and I have my own fitness app. It's pretty crazy and incredible, all the amazing things that come from competing and making the decision to compete. So I'm just so grateful. And here I am living in LA, in Hollywood actually, not to become an actor, but just because I love the environment. And it's kind of cool that just a girl from Ohio got to do all this. I feel like Cinderella, and it's pretty outstanding, I would say. Giving myself a pat on the back because I've achieved a lot more than I ever thought I could. And yeah, it just goes to show you, keep working hard, be consistent, work on the things that you are lacking on, and be honest with yourself. Because in 2011, when I competed in my first competition ever, when I was a hot mess, I could have sat back there and have been salty because I got 14th, or I could have took a step back, realized what I needed to work on and fix it, and that's exactly what I did. And I took that and I improved each show. Even now, I'm improving every show because I can see little things that I can work on, and not necessarily with my physique, but it could be anything with posing, tan, hair, makeup, suit. And I just want to make sure this applies to everyone, not necessarily just the competitors. You just got to be honest with yourself and improve each time, because you're not going to be perfect. Your first time for anything is not going to be perfect, but just keep at it. And you never know where it's going to take you. Keep your goals and dreams realistic. That's important, because I think a lot of times people set goals that are way too high and they're not ready for it yet. And then when they set the goal so high and they don't achieve it, then they get very discouraged and drop off. So I think that's one of the things that's kind of helped keep me going throughout the years as well, is that I have a very good mindset and I'm very realistic. And I know that if I do set a goal, it's very likely that I can attain it if I worked hard. So as long as I work hard, I can do it. I don't set goals that are way too out of my reach, because that just sets myself up for disappointment, and no one wants to feel disappointed. So that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, I'll see you later.